This is Aaron Rice, your host for Maryland Climate Tech 2026. I am here with my good friend Nelson. Nelson, let people know who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Hi, I'm Nelson Spitz. I'm in Houston, Texas. I'm a commercial real estate veteran of over 40 years, and I have specialized in value add creation and focusing pretty much on reducing waste and improving efficiency for the benefit of operating expense reduction and also creating financing for improvements that can help the property
Absolutely.
participate better in the community and make more money.
Absolutely. So, some people might be asking, well, this is Maryland Climate Tech. Why do you have somebody from Texas on the line? Well, Nelson and I go back a few years and we've worked together on a few different projects. We worked together at the same brokerage at one time with EXP Commercial. And Nelson, you're still with EXP Commercial?
I am, yes.
Yes, okay. So that's where Nelson and I met some, gosh, maybe 5 years ago it's been. You still got your hair, I've still got my hair, so we're
Um,
going we're in good shape. But yeah, I wanted to get, a perspective. We have a cadre of international subject matter experts and thought leaders, so it's always good to see what different people are doing in different parts of the country, and maybe Maryland can take some notes from those solutions. So talk to me a little about what's happening in the Texas market and what's your position? I think you're with the U.S. Green Building Council. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of what you do there?
yeah, I've been participating as a volunteer at U.S. Green Building Council for about 7 or 8 years. And for the last 2 years, I was chairman of the Gulf Coast Regional Chapter. And I also serve as vice chairman of the Texas Board. And I'm expected to be chairman as the next election coming up next month.
Congratulations.
Um, we'll, unless it didn't work out, but I expect it. I expect it. Well, I've earned it. And so it's an organization of like-minded professionals from architects, engineers, um, um, HVAC entities, all of those that serve the commercial real estate industry. And they sponsor the LEED Leadership and Engineering Environmental Design Awards. So basically, a lot of that organization was designed to help companies that wanted to get a LEED certification get that done.
Hmm.
And it's evolved a lot, and it's really a advocacy in the state legislature and education, and it's a really strong organization that supports sustainability and resiliency. And
Absolutely.
so it's been a good place for me to establish myself as somebody who knows what they're talking about, even though I come from a leasing and commercial development background. And a lot of that, I hired those kind of experts and really didn't know much about it. So
Hmm.
it helps me have a little more credibility in that space. But what it really actually else helps is a lot of those organizations aren't talking to the decision makers, the bottom line CFOs, CEOs that are coming to the table and looking at their total strategy.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we look at a value add opportunity in multiple, I guess, dimensions. It's not just how do we build it as cheap as we can and make as much as we can. That's what everybody wants to do. But it's also evaluating how can we build smarter so that lasts longer and performs better long term? And how can we finance that so that we're making more money from day one? And how can we have an exit strategy that is more protected and make sure that you're making as much money, paying as little taxes, and just stewarding that project for the best benefit of the investors.
Well, what's interesting here in Maryland, we've got a couple of things that we're competing with. Number one is we've got the most aggressive climate law in the country called the Maryland Climate Solutions Now Act. It's our building energy performance standard, and all of our buildings, 35,000 square feet or more, with some few exceptions, need to be net zero by 2040, and then need to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 60% by 2030. But I've not bumped into many commercial building owners or corporate tenants that even know that the law exists. So that was actually the genesis of why we started what was Baltimore Climate Tech 2024, 2025, and then we did a name change for for 2026. But so there's that, the most aggressive climate law in the country. Our residential energy bills are the highest in the country, an average of $6,500 annually.
Oh, wow. That is a
$540,
lot.
$540 a month annually or a monthly. So we've got the highest energy bills here in the country. And then we also have Baltimore City has the highest rate of asthma-related fatalities in the nation
Wow.
as well. So we're competing with that and then are dealing with that. And then also because of climate change and sea level rise, some of our low-lying areas on the eastern shore of Maryland are slowly sinking into the ocean. So we've got those four things that we're dealing with here in Maryland, and this is why we host this event every year. Talk a little bit about, do you have like climate laws like that in Texas? I haven't heard of any. I wouldn't think so, but tell me about the Texas landscape.
Well, it's interesting. Quietly, solar has become like the champion of renewable energy. We're growing so fast that to meet the demands of our energy
Hmm.
requirements, the grid's just, failing to do it by itself. But when we add the solar and batteries to the grid, we've made it much more reliable and much higher capacity
Hmm.
with not a lot of fanfare
Hmm.
because we are a oil-related state.
Hmm.
So we have a lot of pushback, not from what we're doing, but just not to eliminate oil as a major source.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the resilience has really come along with renewable energy and wind. We almost lead the nation in the amount that we've grown and how much resilience that's added. So
Hmm. 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 Yeah, you all were suffering from some blackouts a couple of winters ago, right?
yeah,
Were
and
you what part of Texas are you in? Were you
Houston, but yeah, we had it bad.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I had my family come stay in my house for about a week because they didn't have power. I live in a high rise and we had
Hmm.
power the whole time.
Hmm. Okay, so speaking of high rise, I know that you're pretty much have focused your career on the office segment, which is where I tend to favor as well. But when we're talking about the Maryland Climate Solutions now, the residential homes aren't necessarily affected, but the multifamily buildings are, the co-ops, the condos. We don't have a lot of co-ops. We have a few, but the condos are, and the multifamily, rental units are as well. So. When you talk about value add and some of the things that you're doing to create what you define as a triple bottom line, can you kind of unpack that a little bit and what that looks like in the multifamily space?
Absolutely. So we meet with an owner developer, asset manager, and we trying to find what is your improvement plan that you're getting ready to implement. And we want to show you a pathway of what your plans are, overlay that with some best practice champions and best practices strategies that make sure that what you're planning to do is optimal for your asset. And that includes market analysis and asset value analysis and make sure that what you're planning is supported if that's the highest and best use.
Hmm.
And then we'll look at your facility and its infrastructure and help you determine what tweaks and improvements we can make to lower that load and decrease the cost of the energy.
Hmm.
And we look to pay for that for various strategies. One is C-PACE financing, which we're help facilitate. We work with several C-PACE lenders, and we help customize a strategy that works for your investments plan. But we also work with a company called Incentive Find, which is the leading database for incentives. And we can customize an incentive capture plan that can help identify not only your federal, state, and local and utility company incentives, but also the tax incentives. So if you qualify for 100% bonus depreciation, if you qualify for um, uh, property asset disposition deductions. There's just various, if you qualify, if you're installing solar, you may have lose some of that 48E, but if you're installing batteries and some other energy production, that still qualifies. So we help you package the whole idea of incentives, tax incentives, financing. We can offer various sources of financing from like energy efficiency as a service type financing, and also on utility bill financing in some cases, or C-PACE financing or some other structures. But we help take the whole asset plan and put it through a few stress tests to make sure that we're structuring the whole implementation project correctly. And and also we're going to look at resiliency and risk mitigation from an insurance perspective
Mhm.
so that we make sure that you don't fall into the brown discount non-insurable category.
Mhm. So talk to me a little bit about when when you've got a new administration in DC and some of the maybe federal incentives are no longer available, and then on top of that, the Lee Zeldin and the EPA have kind of changed their perspective on greenhouse gases and things like that. How does that affect the conversations that you're having with building owners and the different incentives that are available? I guess you have to get a lot more creative nowadays.
Well, we lose in one area and gain in another. For instance, the depreciation under a cost segregation study and identifying um, asset lives. Um, we, we were dealing with a diminishing percentage. So in 2025, I think you could only deduct 40% of the amount of investment. Um, and then you'd have to spread that out longer, but it went up to 100% on some of those things. So what we might have lost in the tax 45E deduction, which is actually a credit, we
Hmm.
gain in the 100% bonus depreciation tax deduction in some cases, not all cases.
What about the 179D? Is that still a thing, or is that
179D had a surge for went up from $1 a square foot to $5 a
$5
square
too?
foot.
Hmm.
But the caveat was you had to use like union expensive workers and prove that, and a lot of the entrepreneurs we work with don't, so they didn't really qualify for that addition anyway.
Interesting.
But there is if you're a manufacturer, for instance, the 179 deduction is very favorable still.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a lot, like the revision to the opportunity zone
Hmm.
is offers a lot of opportunity. I say a lot of financial. I guess is there's a wide net of people who have assets that they're trying to uh, defer the
Hmm.
taxes on
Hmm.
or eliminate some of those taxes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just real estate, but they can take those gains, put them into real estate and defer their gains and eliminate some of their gains in opportunity zones. So that's become much more robust coming
Hmm.
starting in 27, and
Hmm.
it's kind of being put together if where those zones are, and I think there's a lot of rural areas that are going to really benefit from opportunity zones.
So states will be able to add new zones to the opportunity zone
That's happening
program.
right
So,
now. They're
yeah.
trying to recategorize
Hmm.
the opportunity zones uh, for the next 5 years.
So that'll be an interesting uh, uh, take on things is how opportunity zones can play into it. I know during the last Trump administration I was a fan of opportunity zones and the potential for what they could do, not only for real estate, but also even startup businesses who would headquarter an opportunity zone. I think that was often an overlooked part of it that you could actually use these tax deferred funds to actually, or opportunity zone funds to actually, fund a business. And wouldn't that be great for someone that's in the, green jobs, resiliency space to be able to use the opportunity zones to be able to do that? Um, one of the challenges that we have here in Maryland as well, again, we've got the most aggressive climate law in the country, is leases, green leases specifically. And because with our climate law, the building owner needs to use the Energy Star portfolio manager in order to process all their information and be able to measure their greenhouse gases. But they also, if it's a tenant occupied property, whether it's an office, some multifamily buildings, they need to get energy usage data from the tenant in order to comply with the law. But there's nothing in their current lease that requires the tenant to share that information. What type of interesting things are you seeing in your market? In my market, we're hearing anecdotally of tenants actually charging building owners for access to this data and then having them sign a hold harmless so that, hey, I get this data from a third party. If something's wrong with it, don't sue me. But what type of creative things are you seeing on the green lease side to get tenants to cooperate with building owners in order to, meet some of these environmental, social,
Good
governance,
question.
sustainability
From
efforts?
a tenant standpoint, they want to take as little liability as possible and try and put as much on the landlord. And opposite, the landlord wants to put as much on the tenant and keep their liability. But when you have aligned goals, and
Mhm.
you can explain those, so say we're going to try and reduce the building's occupancy operating cost by doing these improvements. They qualify under property assessed clean energy financing, so they become paid for in the property taxes. So, we're going to pass those through to you, but you're going to get the benefit of all of an improved quality building. And, you may have to ask, you may not have to ask. You just do it. And depend on, I mean, the more sophisticated your leases are, they're going to protect you as a landlord, to be able to do things. But your legal department and your, administrators have to become more familiar with the liabilities and the opportunities to get the tenant to take some responsibility there. And it's a must of communication. You negotiate that and however you can to extend or improve the lease. And we find building relationships with your tenants is the most important thing in having a long-term stable asset.
Yep, for sure, for sure. So who would you say is driving the demand for like deep energy retrofits or sustainability? Is it the corporate tenant that might be coming in from Europe who has different energy usage and social impact requirements from their corporate level? Are they driving
I have
demand or is
a
it the building
I
owner
have
that's
a
driving
client,
demand?
a supplier, a friend of mine who we work together,
Hmm.
and he's got this product called the Smart Water Valve, and basically it helps cavitate the air that comes into the water valve, so that the meter is only reading water, not water and air.
Hmm.
So just by that compression and the way it's designed. It may, the meter will be read average of about 20% lower.
Hmm.
So he says, I talk to people who politically want to save the world and others that just want to save money, but it's mostly driven by saving money. There's a lot of inefficiencies like that. And we have some window film, window membrane products that can lower the heat and cooling demand, which will, and we also have some things, devices that make the energy, the motors of the HVAC systems work more efficiently. And you combine some of those things together and you come up with a massive reduction in operating costs, which is cash flow directly to the bottom line, which converts into a
For both the
multiple.
owner and the tenant.
Yes, and I mean, I'm always looking from the owner standpoint, but also, we when
Oh,
you
so
have
you're owner rep then. You operate as an owner rep.
My majority of my real estate business has always been in about 70% owner and 30% tenant buyer.
Got it.
So
Got
I
it.
can play both sides, and I'm better at helping a buyer understand what the landlord's gonna is important to them.
Hmm.
And I also can communicate to the owner, hey, this tenant can really, fulfill your needs
Hmm.
and help them. There's always a push-pull to get to an agreement.
Got it.
I help. That's
Got
what
it.
my expectation
That's interesting
expertise.
because I always came from the perspective of, being tenant rep and the tenants having the corporate sustainability mandates that required a building to operate in a certain way. As we close out, I have to tell you, I'm very excited about LEED version 5. I'm excited about the indoor air quality, points that you can get. You need to use a reset accredited monitor in order to do that, something similar to this
Right.
one. And uh, Talk to me about what your favorite part of Lead version 5 is.
Well, the way that lead used to work is you do all these things, get a bunch of check marks, get a plaque, and take the picture. And it didn't really matter beyond that how you're performing.
You can
Uh,
never lose your plaque, right?
right. But the truth is that it's an ongoing. Lead version 5 takes into account what's going on all the time now, how it's performing. So it's really more realistic on an ongoing basis than just getting the pretty picture.
The transition from a design standard to a performance standard, I think, makes LEED version 5 a very exciting environmental certification to be able to get on a building, especially since now we've got to validate that it's actually performing the way it's designed. So I think
And they
that's
have another program at USGBC called Perform. They just announced that too. It's for
okay.
portfolios. And so basically, you can take all of your data from your portfolio and put it into the Perform, and it'll let basically how you're performing against other assets, how
Hmm.
you're performing against the market,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you certainly don't want to be a low performer. So you can pick those out and prioritize your capital improvements, and then possibly figure out a strategy for getting it paid for through C-PACE financing or any of the other structures that might work for you.
Absolutely. Hey, Nelson, I'm sorry that it took so long for us to reconnect. I made the call and said, "Hey, Nelson, would you like to participate in Maryland Climate Tech?" You're like, "Absolutely." So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you spending some time with us, sharing your subject matter expertise, thought leadership. Your contact information is going to magically appear on the screen, so people
Great.
have referrals in Texas, they'll definitely be able to reach out to you for
Doesn't
sure.
have to be Texas. We work nationally.
Okay. Okay. Well, if
Yeah,
they got a
Bob
referral.
Greenlee, he told me to tell you hi. He's in your neck of the woods and
Yep, on
does
the
a lot of
Eastern
work in your
Shore.
area.
Shout out to
So,
Bob Greenlee, absolutely. So we'll make sure your contact information shows up on the screen so people can reach out. Is there anything that you want people to know about the work that you do and before we close out?
well, I didn't really get to talk about David McLean, who developed a very robust strategy for measuring a three-dimensional impact analysis called the P3I. It stands for Planet, People, Profit, Impact.
Okay.
And we can actually take that asset and look at where it is at minimum code, you start adding improvements and look at the long-term improvement benefits and how that measures to a net present value today. And it's pretty staggering. Small improvements can make a big difference over the long term. And if you know what it's doing and look at it from a present standpoint, it's almost a no-brainer to do it.
Shout out to David McLean as well. He's a fellow Reset accredited professional. I'm the only one here in Maryland. I'm sure if he's not the only one in Texas, there's probably only one or two in Texas. So shouts out to David as well and Robert Greenlee as well. So hey, this has been great, Nelson, man. I appreciate your time and look
Sure.
forward to staying connected with you.
Thanks for having me.
My
Take
pleasure.
care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.